Jai, Radha Mata Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. So happy to be here in this beautiful temple. It's my first visit here, and quite a big surprise to see such a big temple in New Jersey, and beautiful deities, especially Radha, Shyam Sundar, and Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. They're immense. They're really big and beautiful. So very happy to be here. So today I did a seminar on parenting, on the art of Krishna conscious parenting. So I thought I will just continue with that theme a little bit. And because all of you are in some capacity or the other involved with, being parents, right? In some capacity, or at least grandparents or parents, or to be parents, one of the three, right? So it will, hopefully it's going to be of value. And, so I've picked out a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 5th canto, 5th chapter, 18th verse, very famous verse. And I'm sure many of you know that verse. Leela Shakti, are you showing? You want to?
Yeah.
Oh, there she is, yeah. Okay, so we didn't finish this part with the seminar, so I was trying to show the participants or anybody who's interested some excerpt from these books. A whole team is making these books on Srimad Bhagavatam, every canto for children, and from children all the way from 8 years to 16 years or 18 years, and even adults are using it. And this is like a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter by chapter. So it's not like just stories of the main stories of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not like that. It's actually chapter by chapter. We take the chapter and we create activities and summaries for children so that they can get the same benefit of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami has been, asking us to get this as part of, a degree for children, though, and just to encourage them to study Bhagavatam. Okay, so we begin with a chapter summary, and then we go to questions, higher thinking questions, multiple choice questions, and then we also have activities, different activities, just based on that chapter. Like we have critical thinking activities, analogy activities, introspective activities, theater activities. Every chapter not all of them, but some chapters will have skits or dramas on that chapter, and language activities, and some art projects, so crossword puzzles. So in this way children can study the Bhagavatam but in a child-friendly way, and they are able to do the same thing. They've also taken the philosophy. So all these activities are bringing the philosophy together and highlighting the philosophy of that chapter. So I was just trying to show, I don't know if you can see, it's quite, maybe it's not, but you don't have to, just get an idea, okay? So we have this chapter summary here, as you can see. And then, so the summary is, and as we get into the higher cantos, the summaries are much, much longer. And they're all based on Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, okay? And then we have the key themes and key messages, and we pass that, yeah. And then we have the multiple choice questions based on the entire chapter. And then higher thinking questions, as you can see. Sorry, I can't run that slide over there. Somebody else has to do it because it's a PDF. So anyway, so we have, yeah, there she goes. And then we have the themes that you can see, multiple choice. Keep going, yeah. So now yeah. Okay. And then we have, Okay, higher thinking questions. And then, please move on. Yeah. Then we have artistic activities. So this is the story of, this is the third canto talking about the story of Varahadev, right? So we have a nice activity on that, making Mother Earth here for children. And then you can see on the right side, this activity on wanting whoever catches Hiranyaksha gets 10,000, right? Wanted, Hiranyaksha wanted. Okay, then we move on to critical thinking activities. And this is, this debate between, Prabhupada greatly desired that the followers defeat the atheistic way of thinking. In the diagram below are some of the common arguments that non-believers make against God. So all this is there. The children have to think of all the arguments in order to support the fact that God exists. Okay, so this on both pages we have that activity, and then there's another activity about character profile. Learning about different characters and how they behave and what are they saying. So in these boxes below, you see all these. Keep going. Yeah, over here, you'll see about the characters, and they have to fill in what is the character saying and all that. What does the character look like? What is he saying? His personality. Then we have the theatrical activities. This is a whole drama on the battle between Lord Varahadev and Hiranyaksha. Different scenes here, before the battle and after the battle. And the children are going to act it out. This is a lot of fun, but they're learning a lot in terms of this, this story about Varahadev and how he rescued Mother Earth from the depths of the Garbhodak ocean. He brought, Mother Earth was, thrown into the ocean by this demon, and how he brings her to the, to the top, and how she starts floating on that water by the mystic potency of the Lord, and then he kills the demon who did that, who dumped Mother Earth into the bottom of the lake, and he kills Hiranyaksha, who's the brother of Hiranyakashipu. So the battle is here, so like that. And then we have another language activity about the guessing the personality with all these different descriptions, the sentence clues. The children have to guess the personality. Then we have the answers. So all the answers are given. So in this way the parents don't have to work hard at all, or the teachers. Everything is given. Okay. So this way, this is an example of the chapter. And these are the 6 cantos I have here. And we also finished the 7th canto. Each book is 1 canto with all the things. So just wanted to finish that out here for those who are interested. You can order your copies if you like. Okay, so now we'll begin with the verse. So this is a very famous verse that Srila Prabhupada quoted often. So 5:5:18, okay? Yes, 5:5:18. Guru na sasyat, sajano na sasyat.
Guru na sasyat, sajano na sasyat.
Pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat.
Pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat.
Devam na tasyat, na patish janasyat.
Dairam na tasyat, napatis cha sasyat.
Namo chayedya samupeta mrityu.
Namo chayedya samupeta mrityu.
I'll just read the translation here. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. Please repeat. one who cannot deliver his dependents
one who cannot deliver his dependents
from the path of repeated birth and death,
from the path of repeated birth and death,
should never become a spiritual master,
should never become a spiritual master,
a father,
a
a
father,
husband,
a husband,
a mother,
a mother,
or a worshipable demigod.
or a worshipable demigod.
There are many spiritual masters, but Rishabdev advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punar janma neti mam eti so Arjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vedi tatvata. We have many instances in history illustrating Rishabdev's instructions. Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity, and he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Lord, because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat yahosi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi, kaunteya, tat kurusu, mad arparan. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, and all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to the Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father, and Bharat Maharaj rejected his mother, Janani Nasa Syat. The word Devam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or supervisor, superior relative, accepts worship from an inferior relative. But here Rishabdev forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents, just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple, or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. Om Agyanativrandasya Gyananjanashilakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vatamaya Dadhati Swavadantam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is a beautiful verse. I'm sure you're already familiar with it. And these are the teachings of Lord Rishabdev to his 100 sons. And as we can see in this verse, Lord Rishabdev is quite clear about our duties, right? And he's speaking like this to all his 100 sons, right? And a lot of them did actually enter Grahastha life. Some of them didn't, enter Grahastha life. Yet, this is still important, which means even for those, this matter is important, right? Whether one I'm going to speak more on the aspect from the aspect of parenting, obviously, not so much on the other, aspects of people giving shelter to others. Okay, but somehow or the other, whether we have the capacity of being parents or not, but still, all of us are giving shelter to somebody. We are acting as superiors, as we are acting as guide to someone or the other. So here Rishabh Dev is saying that anybody who's in that position of giving shelter to others has a great responsibility, isn't it? And he's specifying that so clear about it, that this responsibility is so serious, and one should not take that position unless we discharge our responsibility of sheltering the one who's taking shelter from us, right? Which means that even if that, in other words, even whether it's a mother or a father, it's not saying wife, but ultimately, if the wife becomes mother, then she's giving shelter to the child, right? So everybody, no matter what capacity it is, otherwise one it suffers reaction. That's how serious it is. That if you don't do our responsibility, in other words, the commitment is to take the soul back to God. It's a commitment to pure devotional service, basically. So a commitment is to the soul, okay? The soul is not a child, it's not old, or it's not young. The soul is soul, so the commitment is to the soul. So in other words, whether it's the guru, and he so many wonderful examples he's given, and very serious examples of how, the person who's giving shelter, because he's taking worship from that person, he's taking, service from that person. So anytime we take service from somebody, we have to give it back. We can't just take service. Whether it's a parent or a guru, the guru takes service, and in return, what does he do? He enlightens the disciple and helps him, and helps him in different ways. So encourages him, sees his propensity, what he likes to do, and accordingly he channels him so that he can go back to God and he can at least go towards that goal, right? And it's a goal that is not easy, like Prabhupada is saying. You have to become a pure devotee to be qualified to take that soul back to Godhead. In other words, again, it's not just taking somebody, but it's also qualifying oneself, being eager to become qualified, isn't it? That is also part of the thing. In other words, in order to take somebody back to Godhead, we ourselves have to become qualified, because it's not an easy thing. It's a very serious thing, and we may not be able to do it. So, in other words, we can't say that, okay, well, I just became a devotee, so how do I take my children back? How do I do this? Because I just became a devotee. I never knew this, so I'm not really responsible. Now they are grown up, and so I can, I'm not really responsible. No, but according to what Lord Rishabh Dev is saying, we're still responsible. It's just that we have to work a bit harder. It's just we have to work a bit harder, because we never gave that soul, right from the beginning. And why such a big responsibility? Is because it describes in the Bhagavatam, in several places, in the 3rd canto also, the condition of that little jiva in the womb of the mother. It's not a happy condition, right? You've read that, right? The child within the womb of the mother is really in a very suffering condition. He's cramped, his body is arched like that. He has no space. And on top of that, the worms are biting, from everywhere. He's in a very miserable condition. Plus, the mother has to watch what she eats, because anything sour or anything or hot is going to jab at that soft skin. Right? So the child is in such painful condition that he prays to the Lord very earnestly. Oh my Lord, I promise you, please take me out of this condition. I'll never forget you. I promise you I'll never forget you. It's my fault, that I've forgotten you. But I promise you I'll never forget you. So please get me out of this miserable condition. And he promises. And of course, Prabhupada writes, not every soul prays like that, okay? But guaranteed, the souls that went into your womb did pray. Why? Because these children are not ordinary. They've already done a lot of, children who are born in devotee families, they're not ordinary children. The reason why they are born in devotee families is because they've already done a lot of devotional service in their past life, and they just couldn't finish that journey. So they are here to just finish their journey and go back to Godhead. It's just interrupted. That's all. Okay. So in other words, so those souls are praying, who've already, understood, who've already done devotional service, but hasn't completed. So he prays. And then, but Prabhupada writes that, he prays very earnestly, but as soon as he's born, because he's smothered by the love of the parents and all that, immediately he forgets that it was such a horrible condition and such a suffering condition, and I should really get out of here. And obviously he's a child, so he's got the subtle bodies of a child. He's quite helpless, in other words. He cannot take the matter in his hand and say, I'm going to go back to God. Who does he depend on? The parents now, right? So the parents have to understand this. When they read the Bhagavatam, they understand this, and it becomes their duty to finish that journey for the child. It becomes important to help the child join up where he left off. It becomes absolutely necessary. And the same thing with Guru, right? So in other words, it's a very big responsibility, and one has to do that, So in other words, the parenting, or in any capacity like that, it's a very serious responsibility to further that journey of the soul. So really, the real key thing is of parenting, the basic point is to assist the soul to go back to Godhead. Okay, that is a main responsibility, and everything else just fits in to that whole equation. In other words, everything else fits in. But if we understand that point, then actually parenting becomes quite easy. If you actually understand that this is the goal, what you're doing is to the soul, okay? And to that extent, we are attached. We should be attached. In taking the soul back to Godhead, whatever it takes, we attach to our duties. There's nothing wrong with that attachment and that affection, okay? And then we use that affection to help with that. To that extent, parenting, if we do that, parenting becomes quite easy, okay? But as soon as we are just attached to the body and we're thinking, these are my children, and I have to control the situation. He has to be the way I think, In other words, we don't even realize that he's bringing his karma from his last life also, right? No matter what you do, but even karma acts, right? You can do what you want, but ultimately he also brings his baggage from his last life, right? So when that, with that in mind, then parenting becomes very difficult, It becomes very difficult. And I tell you, there's a story in Mahabharata, a very good example of what parenting does, what is good parenting. The story of Dhritarashtra, right? His blind attachment to his son, right? Totally blind. So many people want him. There was so many good advice from Vidura. Even Gandhari was, did not support Duryodhana. He really didn't, because he was so adharmic, and he was like personification of dharma. And so when Duryodhana was doing all these nefarious things, he would tell him that I don't support you, but you're my son. I have affection for you, but I don't support you in all these things, right? But Dhritarashtra was totally blind, right? Even when Duryodhana was born, that people want him, right? Vyasadeva, all the great souls, they want him to actually get rid of him, because he's just going to destroy the dynasty, he's going to destroy the family and everything. And of course, it was very difficult for him. he was so attached that he was not a bad person, but because he was, his weakness for Duryodhana made him so blind that he was a participant in trying to murder the Pandavas, in trying to burn them alive, right? To poison them. He was willing to he did everything. So he became party of that crime. Why? Because he was just attached, he was attached by the flesh. So when we do parenting without the idea that this is a service to Krishna, without understanding that here's a little jiva who's depending on me to go back to Godhead, to get away from this material cycle of birth and death, we may end up being too materially attached, and this way we do things that may be, detrimental. Right? So Dhritarashtra was in this condition, that in the end, imagine after doing all that, even Akrura, he was sent by Krishna and Balarama to go and give him good advice, to actually check out what he's doing, what the Kauravas, how they're treating the Pandavas, right? And he went there and he was very disappointed because it openly, and Akrura told him that, you are a king. And by being equal to Pandavas, he didn't even say that you be partial. He said, just be equal to them. Their father died, now you're like a father, just treat them equally. And by doing so, everybody will praise you. You'll be considered such a noble person. But what did Dhritarashtra say? I know Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He is the giver of liberation, or he is the, you can go to hell. It's up to him, according to our karma, of course. But I just cannot do it because I'm just so weak. I'm so weak, he said, right? So in this way, he could take an intelligent decision. Right? And what was the result of that? That even when Krishna came to make peace and said, look, you don't have to do much, just give the Pandavas 5 villages, just 5 villages. Because they're Kshatriyas. They can't live like a hermit. They have to do something, they have to rule. And what did Dhritarashtra say? Or Duryodhana say? Not even that. Yeah. That's how crazy they were, right? That's how proud they were. How one of the things that's really, which is the worst thing is pride, right? Pride for wealth and position and distinction. It was to that extent when one becomes so proud, one cannot even see if the absolute truth is standing in front of you. You still cannot see it. And here is the possessor of all the 3 worlds. He's a maintainer and he's a destroyer. And he's saying, you give them 5 villages and saying, what? You? You are asking me? They couldn't even understand that it's Krishna who's the possessor of everything. That's how blind he became, Dhritarashtra. That he could not even use his intelligence at all. And then finally, when that happened, then then war was declared, obviously, and he was so unfortunate that he had to see the death of all his 100 sons being brutally being killed. You can say brutally, but you can also say mercifully, because who killed them? Bhima. Bhima killed them, and he's a great devotee of the Lord. Well, this is the nature of the Kshatriyas. They cannot handle injustice. Now Bhima, remember he vowed he's going to tear open the chest of the Sasan, right? For dragging Draupadi into the place, And he did that. And one may think that how cruel he was, right? But really it was very merciful. Because Kshatriyas cannot handle injustice to innocent people. They cannot handle it. They don't like injustice. And so what he just, and so he killed them. And of course, Duryodhan, as you know how he killed him, right? As he killed him. The story goes that Gandhari, she was a very chaste lady. And because when Dhritarashtra became blind, she voluntarily also put the blindfold. Because she thought that, well, if I don't do that, then I'll have something better than my husband, and which is, I'll become a, I won't be able to serve him nicely. That used to be the Vedic culture, right? And so she became, because the fact that she blindfolded herself, it was a huge austerity, and due to that, she became very powerful. It is said that a woman, by her chastity, she can gain great power, right? And also it is said that a brahmacharya, if he practices brahmacharya properly, he actually becomes very effulgent. So these are the tapasya, these are the austerities that she undertook. And because of that, she became so powerful that she was able to gain a lot of power. And she invited Duryodhan to come to her. Remember that story? Duryodhan to come to her. And he says, and that was when the war was just about to begin, right? Very soon. And so she asked Duryodhan, you come to my quarters today, but don't wear anything. And Duryodhan went. And of course, Krishna is very cunning. He knows. And so Krishna, he stopped Duryodhan. He says, how can you go naked like that in front of your mother? At least wear a kopan. And he says, Krishna, sometimes you do talk well, with intelligence. So he went and wore a kopan, and then when he came in front of her, Gandhari opened her eyes, and she sees, by the power of her chastity, she had gained so much power that she was able to make Duryodhan's body strong as steel. It's just like steel. And then she glanced, and he had this open, and he says, what's this? And he says, oh, mother, Krishna met me, and that's why he said, oh, Krishna. If somebody wants to kill you, if somebody wants to kill and you want to protect, nobody will kill, right? And if you want to protect somebody, nobody can kill that person, right? And oh, Krishna, you spoiled everything. She knew that, right? So Gandhari was an enigmatic personality, actually. She was very dharmic, but her one flaw was that she had two flaws. One was her envy for Kunti. When Kunti, when she became pregnant, then Kunti also became pregnant with Dhamraj. She had Yudhishthira, right? And we know the story why she had a child with Dhamraj, right? Because Pandu was unable to, and all that. So she became very upset, and she just, when she heard that Kunti gave birth to the child first, so that made her very upset, and she used this, and she really hit her womb really hard, right? And due to that, a big lump of flesh came. And Vyasadeva came, and there was a prediction that she'll have 100 sons. So Vyasadeva divided that into 100 parts, and they became alive. So this is how the story goes. And Gandhari was also, again, both Dhritarashtra and her had to see the misfortune of seeing their sons dead. And we have to go deep and understand why this happened. Dhritarashtra explained it's because of his skin disease. Like he was so blindly attached to Duryodhan that he did not stop him from doing all these terrible atrocities towards the Pandavas. He could have done that, right? He was king, but he went along due to his, due to his insane love. So when this Krishna consciousness is not part of the picture, when we're raising our children, then we end up, there's a lot of trouble, right? So this was it. His attachment was without the desire to make the child Krishna conscious. So when we don't develop the desire to make our children Krishna conscious, we end up, being just having the bodily, love without without our duty, like Rishabdev was saying. Our duty is to give that protection to the soul, is to enhance the soul's journey back to Godhead. Okay, Gandhari, was did not support Dhritarashtra in all that he did. Many times she would go and mourn, right? But at the same time, her love for Krishna was more on the basis of mundane morality. Okay? In other words, if I don't do this, I can go to hell. So I better do this. It was not really based on love, right? So in other words, one of her flaw was she was envious of Kunti, and the other thing was that later on, when all her sons died, she was practically mad with grief. And the Pandavas, when they came in front of them, she was ready to burn them. She had so much power. Her chastity brought so much Shakti, She was ready to burn them. And of course, Vyasadeva again said, why would you want to do that? You know you never supported Duryodhana in his dharmic activities. You know Pandavas are dharmic. He says, I cannot bear this grief of losing my 100 sons. It's too much of a grief, right? And of course, then Yudhishthira came, in front, and he was going to burn him alive, right? And he burnt his little finger. Krishna protected him, right? She was so angry, with Bhima, and he asked Bhima, why did you kill my 100 sons? And Bhima said, your son was better than me in fighting, and she was pacified. Then Yudhishthira came, and Yudhishthira immediately asked for forgiveness, and she was pacified. I mean, such was the nature of these Pandavas. They were not only just warriors, but they had a heart. They're not terrorists. Like today you see warriors, there is no sense of, having a heart or being, soft-hearted. These great devotees, like Arjuna and all, they were very strong warriors, but they also were, they knew how to ask for forgiveness. They had no problem going and asking for forgiveness, even though the Kauravas had done so much terrible atrocities towards them. Such was the caliber of these great devotees, right? And yet, and then, of course, so Gandhari was, she was always, had this blindfold. So she was grief-stricken when her 100 sons were killed, right? And then she told Vyasadeva that actually, when everything was finished, then she told Vyasadeva, I want to go to the battlefield and see. All her sons were lying there, dead, right? Except, Duryodhana had a different story, right? And she wanted to see, and Vyasadeva, owing to her desire, opened her eyes, and she went and saw everything, and what she saw obviously just shook her up so much, right? And she came, and she was so upset. She was just besides herself. And then it said in the Mahabharata that she cursed Krishna. She cursed Krishna and said that your Yadu dynasty will be destroyed, right? And also you're going to be shot by a hunter. And Krishna smiled. And why did he smile? Because it just fit in his plan. Yadu people had to go. It was time for them to depart, right? And so it didn't affect them. He said, look, and he told Dhritarashtra, I'm not responsible, Gandhari, I'm not responsible for your sons being killed. Everybody who has a child gets a child according to your karma. Krishna is not to blame. In other words, whatever the way, it's not just they bring their karma, but the way we train them, we're responsible. If their sons, because they were evil and they are being killed by Pandavas, because Krishna vows to put a virtuous person on the throne of the entire world, right? These emperors were ruling in the entire world. So Krishna puts it on himself to bring a virtuous ruler. Right? He did the whole Mahabharata war just to bring Yudhishthira, a righteous person, right, on the throne. He said, this is not my responsibility. Everybody brings their own, result. Like we are responsible, right, for that. So in this way, Krishna absorbed himself. And of course, so it's said that, she was a tragic figure. In other words, In other words, when we don't take up this responsibility, both of them didn't take up their responsibility of making the child into a nice devotee, right? To training the child in Krishna consciousness. So this is the result. You see, it's a very heavy thing, you know, but it's something to think about and to learn from it. That you know, how we parent is very, very important, and accordingly we get a result. In other words, we can do everything material in this world, right? Everything material in this world. But guaranteed, according to Bhagavatam, that if you do only material, guaranteed we will not get a good result. Because what does Rishabdev say? We bring reaction upon ourselves. It's reactive. It's our duty. But if you try to make them Krishna conscious, the result has to be good. Now they may not make to the spiritual world in this life. But you know how powerful devotional service is? The Bhagavad Gita says that somebody who's done devotional service for a long time and what is the result? And somebody who's done it for a short time, what is the result? Suppose you're trying to make your child Krishna conscious and he does devotional service for a little while. Like many of you feel like, you know, they're not completely devotees, right? But they're still doing some devotional service. They're still, you know, trying and doing. So such people are born into good families, right? Of rich merchants. And they automatically get so I'll just wind up really quickly. So they get birth in good, rich aristocracy, where they immediately get the facility to practice Krishna consciousness, and they move on to where they left off, right? And for those, what to speak of devotee children who've done long years of practice growing up. Suppose they do practice for like 20 years and then they get distracted. Imagine they've done devotional service for 20 years, you know? So in other words, for those who've done it a long time, then they get birth in devotee families, in the family of transcendentalists. So there is only gain, gain, gain. There's no loss. So whatever you give them, even a little bit you give them, is of eternal benefit. So this is what Rishabdev is saying. There's nothing to be scared about, or there's nothing to be, you know, do or die type thing. But whatever we can give our children, of course we should try to give them as much as we can. But whatever we give them is of value to them. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, any doubts or challenges or there we go. Anybody has any questions?
Mataji. Srimati Mataji. Your mic there?
Who has a question? Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Kanwal. Thank you very much for the wonderful seminar and the Sunday Feast class. I just want to shower my gratitude a little bit before the question because later I might not get the mic. Whatever Arudha Mataji has said in the seminar, whatever we have heard in this Sunday Feast lecture, she has everything on her website, she has everything, whatever she spoke, and more than that in her books. 10 years back, that little pink book, what she has written, has changed our lives. We homeschooled our both kids, and they are exactly what Mataji has told right now. They are very well situated. all the process is given by Prabhupada. Mataji is just letting us know with added realizations of her. So I would recommend every one of you who did not hear the seminar, you can go to the YouTube channel of ours and look into the seminar, look for Mataji's website. The exemplary devotees are her kids itself, Radhika Raman Prabhu, we all know, and Gopal Hari Prabhu. We are unfortunate that today Prabhuji is not able to be here, he is sick, so he couldn't fly. And Mataji has to take continuously like 3 hours plus again another hour, 4 hours of class for us. Thank you so much, Mataji. My question to you, Mataji, is lot of parents have fears first of all. This verse, what you spoke is amazing verse. Jayadvaita Maharaj spoke this verse, Guru Maharaj spoke on this verse. So they were speaking, whatever Prabhupada wrote in the purport and whatever the translation says, it's very, very strong. Like we feel afraid that if we cannot deliver, we are not qualified to become those things. Some of the parents even said that, oh, ab shaadi to kar liya, bachchi to paida kar liya, abhi kya karna hai? Because somewhere so much like you are not even qualified. Like that's what the verse says. If you are not able to deliver them, so there are certain kinds of fears in the parents' mind itself. First of all, before doing Krishna conscious parenting or before doing homeschooling or something, do you have anything specifically? I know you are. My Guru Maharaj calls Mataji as goddess of education. The real education, what Mataji says is the real education. So, do you have anything, Mataji, first of all, to get cleared the parents that this is the best method or this is the best way, Krishna conscious parenting. It's not hard. I know you have written a lot of books for how to do parenting, but I have seen in these 15 years of my association with devotees and guiding some parents and guiding some students, there is an innate fear in parents also that my children would miss something by completely, like you said, like they were reading only Srimad Bhagavatam, Radhika Raman Prabhu and Gopal Hari Prabhu. When the Sherlock Holmes came, they were like, what is this Sherlock Holmes? Who is he? It was easy for them because they have studied Srimad Bhagavatam, but that faith might not be strong in the parents. Because of that, there might be some innate fear in them. Do you have any plan to write to help the parents, first of all, to take out this fear and then start the process, take it serious? Thank you.
I would say just try it, get into it, try it, and if you, like I remember one class by Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said, I give you $1 million, to try this chanting or something like that, In other words, otherwise your money is back, your money back or something like that. So this process is like that, if you just try it, even if you don't feel like it or you don't feel inspired, just try it. The trying itself is so wonderful, it's so joyful. And there's no loss in that. And the wonderful thing about, this is that, we don't have to be qualified to do this. You become qualified when you do it. I was a totally new devotee. I was growing as they were growing. They were advancing, I was advancing. You see? So the process is so nice. When you do it with them, the results will be there. You don't have to be qualified. You just have to associate. For devotees who are here, just coming here, they're afraid of Krishna consciousness. They have to do nothing except associate with each other, with other devotees. Guaranteed you're going to feel, yes.
I have a very basic question actually. When somebody does wrong to us, we say that we should not get angry on that person because the wrong thing is happening to me because of my karma. But somebody does good to me, should we not showcase our gratitude to that person? In that logic?
I didn't get it. Anybody wants to, can you repeat that? I didn't get it. I really
There
didn't.
is something like something happens good to me, bad to me by some person, right? Somebody does wrong to me.
Okay.
In that case, we say that we should not get angry on that person
Okay,
because, just
okay.
because of it's happening because of my karma.
Okay.
So if somebody is doing good to me,
Uh-huh.
should we not showcase the gratitude to that person because it's also happening because of my karma?
Oh, I see. Well, see, what happens is, first of all, if somebody does something to you bad, and you get angry, you retaliate, by getting angry or whatever, then the reason why it's not recommended to react in that way, you respond but you don't react. And the reason is because your anger will will further that karma. In other words, if that person is wrong and being angry at you, if you want to stop the karma, then you don't retaliate, okay? Because then you stop the karma. If you retaliate, then you also get half the karma. You see? So in that way, it's recommended that you don't. And the way you stop reacting is you realize, well, nothing happens without Krishna's sanction. Everything happens according to his will, right? So there's some Krishna's, sanction here. I must deserve this from that person. Or maybe I did something in my last life to him. When people would start shouting at Srila Prabhupada, he would say, it's okay. He was not affected. My Guru Maharaj, one time, there was a widow who would come every week and ask money for. And Guru Maharaj would give out of his pocket. She was in a difficult situation. And then the disciples started getting angry. Guru Maharaj, why are you giving money to this? And the Guru Maharaj said, well, in my last life, I must have owed her money. You see, this is how a pure devotee takes. That if that person is angry with me, it must be something that I deserve. It's my karma. In other words, I must have done something to deserve that. It's a very advanced stage. It's not easy. It's very hard to do that,
What happens when somebody does good to me? Should we not showcase?
Yeah, that you can show. That is not karmic.
Uh-huh.
Being grateful is devotional. Krishna is so pleased. How do we give up our envy or anger towards others? Is by glorifying them. The person that we don't like, that we hate or whatever, the way to get out of that cycle is to just glorify that person. See the good qualities in that person. See the good. You'll see a pure devotee, he's not able to see the bad in anybody, because he sees behind everything that's Krishna's mercy there. Krishna's mercy is always behind anything that bad happens to him bad. And as soon as he starts seeing Krishna's mercy, he can tolerate anything. Parikshit Maharaj was able to tolerate even that curse because he saw that as Krishna's mercy. Yes.
Do you think there is a way possible to avoid good karma?
How to avoid good karma?
Yes.
Bad karma?
How to avoid good karma?
How to avoid? Yeah, one has to be karma free. Akarma. Akarma. And that can only happen when we get on the transcendental level, where everything we dovetail for the pleasure of Krishna. Anything that you do. Every day you make if you see your daily life, there's 1,000 things we do. We can check it out. We can have a check mark. Does every activity do I do, is it to please Krishna? And when we come to the stage of pleasing Krishna in everything that we do, we're becoming karma free.
Thank you.
When the kids do something which is not acceptable, and then being angry.
Oh, can you repeat that again?
When the kids does the something which is not supposed to do, but they do repetitively, and then we become angry to show them the anger. Is that a good, or we should avoid that one also? Because it's own kid.
Yeah.
Once I see someone else kids is doing that, we can ignore it. But correcting the kids here, is that
Yeah,
good or?
Yeah, it depends on what age they are, okay? Prabhupada said after the age of 15, you have to treat them like a friend. After 16, So you can't just, treat them as though they were your little babies, your little children. like I was saying today in class, children they change, and you have to treat them differently at different stages, right? Because we want to see them as their little baby. The body has changed, but also the mind, the subtle mind has changed. They're not the same. We have to learn to see that, children, they're going through a very turbulent period during that time, during teenage time. They don't understand what's happening to them themselves. They don't understand themselves. What's going on in their bodies and their mind is changing. So we have to, be understanding and see that, how we teach them and how we deal with them has to be different. Right? There has to be enlightenment, but also a lot of encouragement, both. We have to encourage them. Just like Krishna with Arjuna, he initially they were friends. They were had a friendship relation, but then it turned parental when Arjuna realized that he needed help. Right? It was very parental. And how did Krishna deal with him? He never ever gave him up. He kept asking him to make it deliberate. He gave instructions, but he kept asking him to deliberate and to make his own decision, to use his own intelligence, just like you have to tell your children. He never forced anything on Arjuna. Now you do like this because I'm telling you that. He said, I've told you so much, now you deliberate. But then Arjuna was so confused because Krishna had told him so many things in this chapter, another chapter, another chapter. He was so perplexed, and Krishna became so compassionate. So compassionate. So this is the role of parents. We give them choices, we give them consequences, but then we give them a lot of encouragement. We tell them, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. We want them. But at the same time, you never give up on them. You keep encouraging them, keep encouraging. Just like Krishna was so loving. He says, you haven't understood everything. I will give you the topmost knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. And Arjuna, if you haven't understood anything, I'll speak the Bhagavad Gita all over again. So you have to let them make their own decisions when they grow up. Because somebody asked this question earlier, and I said I would answer them here. We can't force them. Krishna never ever told Arjuna, you do like this. He left it on him. He wanted to use him to respect his intelligence, right? But then, he told them the consequences. If you do like this, this will happen. But at the same time, he was encouraging, and he told Arjuna, I love you so much. So we never give up on our children. We just keep encouraging them, giving them the knowledge, the example, and the facility. The knowledge, just like when you're teaching somebody how to bike, right? You have to teach them how to bike. That's knowledge, right? Then you give your own example. You get on the bike and show them, right? But then you give them the facility. Here's a private parking lot. You're going to be safe, right? So you give them the knowledge, you give your own example, and then you give them the good association, and then you leave it up to them. Ultimately, they have to make the decision. So anger will come only at a stage when, at a very young stage. Later on, you can be angry.
Hare Krishna. So let's again thank Aruna Mataji with a loud Haribo! 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 If anybody is interested if anybody is interested to get the books of Mataji, can contact Lila Shakti Mataji out there. She is right there. She is taking orders for Mataji's so nicely delineated books on parenting as well as Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Today's feast is sponsored by Devananda Rama Prabhu for Niti Mataji's birthday. 40th birthday. If they are here, they can come over. This from here. Yeah. For the pleasure of Shri Radha Shamsundar, Shri Jagannatha Subhadra, Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Prabhupada and all the assembled Vaishnavas, book distribution scores from this week. Nityananda Trayadashi book marathon this weekend, book score of 855 Lakshmi points. There were different teams, Nimbarka Acharya team, Bhagavad Gita 15, English book 4, Avatar Art 3, Children Coloring book 11, Small Miscellaneous book 16, total Lakshmi Kalaka 374 with participants of Jay Prakash Prabhu, Keshav Prabhu, Sudhakar Prabhu, Anjana Mataji,